Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I'm Moises, and on today's episode, I'm gonna review and react to the next episode in the Assassination of Gianni Versace, the episode titled Creator, Destroyer. So let's get right to it. So the show begins in 1957 in Calabria, Italy, and we see a little kid. And we learn really fast that the little kid is Kid Gianni Versace, and we see him making a sketch, and he's sketching a dress, and it's kind of like this, you know. It kind of looks like that. His mother sees him sketching and immediately says to him, you know, you need to do what you love. And she says that because she wanted to be a doctor, but her father said that is not a woman's job. So she became a dressmaker. So that's why the mother's name is Franca. Franca is so intent on helping Gianni achieve his dream. If he wants to make dresses, she's gonna help achieve that. And she says to him, I'll teach you. Fashion is Gianni's passion, and they even show us Kid Gianni in the school, and he's sketching, and the teacher catches him doing one of his sketches and says, what's this? Are you a pervert? And then some smart aleck kid says, not a pervert, a pansy. Little Gianni comes home all depressed, and the mom notices that, and she immediately says to him, you know what? We're going to make this real. And so they start to get to work on the dress. But before that, she says, you know, success comes from hard work. And that's what makes it so special. She inculcates, yeah, it's a big word. She inculcates that into Gianni Versace, that to be successful, you have to put in the hard work. And that's the last time we see Gianni Versace in this episode. From here on out in this episode, all we do is focus on Andrew Cunanan. Yay! We then go forward in time to 1980 to San Diego, and we see a moving van, and we see this older Asian Filipino guy called Modesto, and he's helping load some truck and stuff. And then they show us some kid, which we know is Andrew Cunanan, sitting in a little room being cooled off by a fan, because, you know, he can't be bothered helping to move stuff, you know, because he's Andrew, Prince Andrew to be exact. And Modesto calls for Andrew and tells him, you know, say goodbye, you know, this is not for you. And they leave. And they move to the new house. It's a much nicer house. It's kind of a McMansion, you know, it kind of looks too big for the lot size. That house has like a three-car garage, and it looks like a normal suburban street. So I think that qualifies as McMansion. Modesto gives Prince Andrew the grand tour of the house and brings Andrew into the master bedroom of the house and says, this is yours. And I'm like, what? He's just a little kid. But Modesto tells Andrew that when you feel special, success will follow. The room is yours. It's like, wow. After the first commercial break, we cut to a prep school. And this is also juxtaposed with Modesto Cunanan being in some office. So it seems that both Andrew and Modesto are going to be interviewed. Andrew is going to be interviewed for that fancy prep school, and Modesto for possibly a job at some fancy schmancy stockbrokering firm. Now, during Modesto's interview, he tells the people that are interviewing him to call him Pete. Now, I don't know how you get Pete from Modesto, because it's like Modesto. It's like, call me Maudie, you know, but Pete? How do you get Pete out of that? It's just weird, right? They ask Andrew why he wants to come to the Bishop School, and he answers, because it's the best school in California and one of the best in America. And the Merrill Lynch guys ask Pete that they should hire him because, you know, he loves America. He also was able to turn $12,000 into $80,000 through house flipping, essentially. And that he's a really hard worker and he's really thirsty for money. At the Bishop School, they ask Andrew if he had one wish, what would that wish be? And he says, eventually, he's like, to be special. Now, I really thought he was gonna say, well, my one wish would be to have more wishes, because that sounds more like Andrew Cunanan to me. We then see Modesto sitting at a table, looking all depressed. And then Andrew and his mother walk in behind him, and he just says, I didn't get the job. And then Andrew's mother's like, what, they told you already? And he's like, yeah, they called. And then he's like, ha ha ha, no, I'm kidding. I did get the job. We're gonna dine like kings today. $60,000 base salary, and the sky's the limit. And then he turns, like instantly he turns, and he's like, you really believed I didn't get that job? And he starts turning on Andrew's mother. And it just shows how crazy these people are. I mean, Andrew comes from a den of crazy people. They also show us Andrew's father bringing this book to Andrew called The Art of Conversation, and him stressing how important it is to, I guess, learn how to converse with people. And then finally, in this segment of the show, we see that Andrew gets into the bishop school. So he's like super duper happy. And it's like a great moment. We then cut to Modesto's first day at the office at Merrill Lynch. And the office is crazy and just a buzz full of people and phones ringing off the hook. And one of the guys is like, wow, you beat 500 other applicants to get this job. You must be like the best, you know, stockbroker ever. And then they show they show Modesto taking a call from some guy. And it doesn't go well. He like hangs up. The other guy hangs up, but he doesn't. He pretends to keep talking on the phone, and you can hear that sound of when you hang up a phone, but he just keeps talking like, you know, the sociopath he is. And he pretends he's making a big sale. It's just all fake. We then see that Modesto has bought a new car, and the new car is for Andrew. And Andrew's a little kid still. I mean, I don't know exactly how old he is, but he looks like he's like, what, between 10 and 12? I mean, 10, 12, maybe 13. And there's no way he can drive the car. And he has older siblings that should be the next ones to get a gift like that. And so the mother stands up for those kids and says, you know, our other kids could drive that. And she's like, yeah, but he got into the bishop school. And the mother's like, yeah, that's a beginning, not an end. And that triggers Modesto. And he starts choking her and throws her to the ground and says, you know, a kid has to dream. I don't want him to end up like you. Ooh. Me. And Modesto tells Andrew in the car that, you know, he loves his other kids, but they're not special. And that Andrew is the best friend he ever had. He actually tells that to his little kid. We then cut to the master bedroom, and this is where it gets really creepy. So they show the father, Modesto, telling Andrew, remember that time you burnt your foot on the heater and I kissed it to make it better and you didn't make a sound? And then he's like, not a sound. And then he like turns off the light. And so they're telling us that something's going to happen here, like something sexual. So I guess he was abusing Andrew, and that's why he got that master bedroom, so he could, you know, abuse him there all day long or whatever. I always thought Andrew having his own master bedroom at his parents' house was a lie. So it was really shocking to know that this was actually true. And I verified this because I watched the 2020 special on YouTube. Thank you, Vanessa Benitez, for telling me about it. And it's all true, so weird. We then cut to photo day at the bishop school, and Andrew Cunanan has that famous photo taken where he has that, you know, that dress shirt but open with the tie. They show that he took that photo right there with the photographer with like that nice background. But if you guys know anything about Andrew Cunanan, you know that's not how it was. That photo was taken outdoors. I don't know, it could have been on that exact day of the yearbook shoot or whatever, but it was taken outdoors. So that they kind of embellished. We then learned that Modesto is no longer at Merrill Lynch. He's at some low rent stockbrokering company because he's in a little cube now, and it just looks way more run down and dingy. And he's trying to swindle 90-year-old grandmothers out of their life savings or their pensions. It's like really sleazy. They then show us Andrew get all dressed up, and he hops in a car with some guy, an older guy. They drive to a party, and he's like, you're gonna come in with me, right? And the older guy's like, no. It's like, you're just a side piece. It's like, I'm married. What, did you actually think this was gonna go somewhere? And Andrew's kind of like, oh, like he comes to realization. And he goes into the party by himself. And he's wearing like this crazy red jumpsuit. I don't know, kind of looks like Michael Jackson. But it's kind of cool in a horribly tacky way. And at that party is where he meets Lizzie. Lizzie is his girlfriend that we've seen in other episodes. And she says, you know, oh, I'm just house sitting for the De Silvas. So that's where he got the name De Silva from. They then show us Modesto getting interrogated by his new low-rent bosses. And they're like, were you trying to swindle a 90-year-old woman out of her life savings? And were you selling her non-existent stock? And he's like, yeah, well, there's a lot of explaining to do. And then they're like, well, there's an FBI investigation, and we are cooperating fully. And that makes him like, you know, start sweating and getting scared. And he immediately gets on the phone and calls his travel agent and says, you know, book me that flight. Right before he leaves for the Philippines, he sees Andrew and he says, don't believe any of it. And of course, Andrew being a good son, you know, he believes him. Andrew's convinced that there's a stash of gold or like some hole in the ground with money that the father left for him, because he just can't believe that the father would take off and leave the family like that. So he buys a ticket to the Philippines and goes to try to find his father. As soon as he lands in Manila, he asks the cab driver to take him to some town called Baliuagag. I don't know, I'm saying it totally wrong. But he goes, and the taxi driver's like, you really want to go there? Gets dropped off there, and immediately he's like, is this the right place? Because, you know, I think he's expecting to be in front of like a beautiful plantation or a beautiful high rise, and it's just like some little shack house. Finds the father, and the father feeds him some pork rinds, and then he tells him there is money, but the money's out of reach. He admits to Andrew that, you know, he did commit a crime. His crime was that he didn't steal enough. If he had stolen $100 million, he'd be celebrated. And, you know, he's kind of right. Andrew then tells his father that he knows some things, that he went to the public library and that he found out that there's no such thing as the top 500 stockbrokers of California, that that's not true, that it doesn't exist. And the father finally admits, yeah, there is no money. They start arguing, and Andrew's father starts calling him a sissy boy. It's his special sissy boy. And Andrew gets a knife, and it almost looks like he's gonna react, but I guess he loves his father so much, he's not gonna stab him. And Andrew says to his father, you know, I'm never gonna be like you. To which the father replies, go ahead. That's right. You don't have it in you. And the final scene in the show is back in San Diego, and they show, you know, Andrew and his family moving out of the house. FBI's there, all the neighbors are looking, and it's like really embarrassing. Finally show Andrew going to Rite Aid, or one of those, you know, type of stores, and there's a help wanted sign, and the guy inside, the manager, he's a Filipino guy, and they strike up a conversation, and he applies right there on spot. Now, this was a really good episode. That actor they used to play Andrew's father, Modesto, he was so good and so believable. I mean, just seeing that Andrew was always the preferred child, I mean, it really opens your eyes to see how he turned out the way he did, because, you know, he was always treated as special. And it was also cool seeing the mother so normal. This is the most normal we've seen her yet. You know, she was kind of like a victim of abuse too. This episode was the longest one yet, but it felt short because it was actually so good. Now, next week is gonna be the very final episode of the series. So if you guys want me to review other shows or have suggestions, please write them in the comments. You know, I love getting comments, and I try to reply to all of them if I can. So let me know, guys. So thanks for watching, guys, and don't forget to come back next week for the finale of the Assassination of Gianni Versace. I'm Moises Amaya, and I'm out.